Okay, hello. How are you doing? Right. Still arriving. So put your feet on the ground, and for the time that we're together, consider that there may be changes available to you that have never been before today. We all shift and change during our lives. We wake up one day and something's different or possible that hasn't been the day before. So rather than pulling our expectations and assumptions from the past into the future, what if we consider that this moment, these couple of hours, hour and a half, couple of hours, have a possibility for you? And we'll talk about that a bit today. We're going to talk about resource states and also availability of the nervous system and consciousness for transformation and change. And it's a lot to do with how we set ourselves up. For those of you that work with people, you can see that you kind of have to operate within the limits of what the person can resolve in the moment. If you think of a physical metaphor, I'll do an intro in a second. I think I know most of the people here, but I'll do an intro in a sec for those that don't know me. If you think about if you went to a personal trainer and you said, my goal is to run a marathon, and they went, great, let's go out and run a marathon. This would not be very helpful unless you're already a middle distance runner, right? So a lot of change, what I notice is that people pick tasks or pick, and we're talking about personal development, evolution, self-evolution, pick activities that don't necessarily match the most elegant resolution that their nervous system can make each day. Either it's too big, right? And we're now part of the system resists it, and now we use like force and yang to try and push through, or it's too small in our own minds, and we think, well, that's no use. If I only go to the gym and only lift 10 grams a day, that's not going to help, which is kind of true. But you can think of it in terms of pattern. So Ken Wilber, who's a philosopher, writer, talks about that when you learn to meditate, if you want to learn to meditate, don't learn to meditate by sitting down for 20 minutes twice a day. Sit down for 1 minute twice a day for a month, because what you're learning is not to meditate. This is my words now. You're learning to sit down to meditate. Right? And therefore, by restructuring how we think about what we're doing in the world and activities and behaviors, we can streamline this process of change that to better fit with our nervous systems and how we operate in the world. Much of, from what I've seen, which makes sense, like even our language is built this way, much of change is a sort of cause and effect kind of mechanism, kind of Newtonian idea that if you want something, then you use it almost a mechanical description. I want to show you a video in a minute, in a few moments, once we've had a check-in, of research from AI that shows very often going directly towards an outcome is a terrible idea and doesn't get us where very easily, right? And there's good reasons for it, kind of systemic reasons in how we operate as human beings, right? So these kind of counterintuitive things that actually we find out that, you know, what Joseph Campbell talked about, follow your bliss, follow your curiosity, move towards novelty and exploration, can very often be more effective. Let's say not very often, in many cases, be more effective than simply going for the outcome you want. Right. So take a breath, and allow yourself to relax into your body. Just do a body scan, let go of any tension or stress in your muscles that you doesn't need to be there. Anything that you've been pondering that's on your mind that needs to be attended to. If you're going to be here, then you won't be attending to those things anyway over the time that you're here. So see if you can temporarily just put those aside and open to the possibility of novelty, variation, diversity, something you haven't thought before. Priming ourselves for liminal space, not too tight, not too loose. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And let's do it this way. Who do I not know? Who's new? Hi, Carol, welcome. Okay, so let me just give you a brief intro then. It's probably worth having on the video anyway. All right, so my background, here's the classic slide, intro slide. All right, so my background is in originally theoretical physics and mathematics and engineering, which kind of shapes the angle from which I come at change in two ways. One is being able to model human systems. How do we operate independent of any previously thought of theory? So purely empirically, let's just observe, what do we do as humans? What, you know, every time we do A and we get B, then kind of noticing that this is a model, it's not the truth. Right? And so I worked in oil and gas, don't hate me, for 20 years, and it's in simulation. And so it was making computer models of what a reservoir, an oil field would operate like. And in the early days, there was hardly any computing power compared to what we have now. And so models have to be efficient and describe only the bits that we're interested in. Right? And there's lots of modern neuroscience that suggests we don't actually live in an accurate description of reality. We live in our maps and models of what would help us survive. And that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but we can go into that, right? So now I'm a coach trainer, and my curiosity really is in this tagline: how do we find surprisingly elegant change? So we're positing that there is a way in which, if we approach things, it's an incredible struggle and hard and challenging, and maybe, just maybe, there's counterintuitive things that we might do that create change that are elegant, and the reason for the surprisingly is because they're unexpected compared to the conventional wisdom, right? It's a positing that there might be more elegant ways to evolve and grow than are quote unquote out there in the world. This model called developmental mastery, over my kind of 30 years of exploration, noticed, I was teaching in a coaching school for 3 years. So coaches would come in every week. It's about 25 to 40 people wanting to build their online businesses, and they would come up against various challenges that myself and my co-trainer Annie Lala would help them through the inner game challenges rather than the outer tactics of strategy and marketing and, you know, what should I put on my landing page and How should I structure my emails, and what should my funnel be? And so what I noticed is that, in all my own explorations, there's a whole bunch of different ways that people have modalities in change. So one is adult stage development, the fact that we develop through different stages of development as we grow up. Children clearly do, but actually adults seem to go through different ways of being throughout adulthood that are everyone's unique, but there seems to be some patterns. And relating to others, the fact that we have a continuously evolving self, we're more a process than we are a noun. A noun is how we describe ourselves because of language. I have a self rather than I'm selfing, right, in the world. Very critically, when we can down-regulate strong emotions, the defensive reactions of the body, when they kind of settle down, we can evolve and grow more elegantly. And equally, this has to do with how we hold reality together, either in rigid polarities, either ors, yin yangs, like I really want this side and I don't want this side, which is in Buddhism, attachment and aversion, or in you might call them attractors. So very strong imprints in the nervous system that operate almost like, like the sun is a planet that, because it has a lot of mass, kind of pulls everything around it. So these kind of imprints in memory, and when we downregulate the charge on these stuck places and they dissolve, our whole system can free up and reorganize into more elegant harmony and flow. Tools to know and authentically connect to self. So this is the idea that we all have a unique energy signature, and that the only true happiness, this is a claim, is to live from your own energy. And really what that means is, all those times when you feel like you're just yourself, right? You're not being pushed and pulled around all over the place. It's a very simple, exquisite feeling of freedom because you can be just you. It's not some epic, storm the gates of heaven or that kind of heroic, epic thing. Think about anything that at one time was a struggle and now you can just do easily. It becomes more normal, right? Anything you can do now that was one time a struggle is always more, the resolution of any challenge is always more normal when you get to the other side of it than you think when you're on this is a mountain to climb side. Okay, so then we have that we're not just separate beings, that we are embedded in these networks of thought forms and constructions of archetypes from society, from our family systems. And Gurdjieff, a Yugoslavian mystic, would say that most people don't have a will, right? They're so embedded in their programming and conditioning that they think they're making choices. They're really just avoiding negative experiences and trying to go towards things that they perceive to be positive. Right? And therefore, the dropping away of all of these things, very often people will say things like, well, now how do I live? Right? Because rather than being pushed and pulled around by their programming, it's like, well, now you have to make choices. And they're like, yeah, but what if I get it wrong? Right? And this is the beginning of maturity and adulthood and making authentic maturity and making decisions under conditions of uncertainty and ambiguity. Right? Then we have how many people know people who've been in personal development and change, but they haven't actually implemented a tenth of what they know into their lives. This is very common and normal, because doing this actually brings up thoughts, feelings, emotions of making things real. Right? So if you have an idea or a thought of something you want to bring into existence, then, and this brings into manifestation and reality creation, you need to be able to do this arc between a pure conception of an idea coming out of the void through to a subtle concept and mental emotional planning, through to behavioral change, through to bringing it into this physical reality, right? A full arc. The Theosophists have what they call the 7 planes of existence, where they go from pure idea through to the physical. And then some form of awakening practice, realizing that these are experiences we're having, thoughts, feelings, emotions, the physical world, the psychological world, but who is the one having these experiences? Who is the you that, as I made up a song recently using AI, but who is the one, you've been through all these experiences, but who is the one who remembers it all? Right? Who is this person that's having this experience? Who's the you? And you can't really sneak around and have a look. There's a thing in spirituality that says the eye cannot see itself. right? So the very you that's having this experience, you can settle back into it. You can't actually, quote unquote, see it. You can be it because it is you, but you can't kind of, because the minute you make it into an object to experience, then it's what you're experiencing. It's no longer the experiencer. So Ramana Maharshi called this, the saint from the Indian traditions, called this I, or absolute subjectivity. Right? To things like Buddha nature. All right. So that's a bit about me, a bit about this developmental mastery kind of principles, a synergy of models, not getting caught in that any model is ideologies. And then what we do, the idea here is for people to bring things, and we'll go into some principles, thoughts, concepts. So I like to view this less as coaching or therapy and more like creativity, exploration, learning. Yeah, those three. Play. That's the other one. Right. Okay. So let's have a little check-in, which is a sort of just a chance to put yourself into the space, say a few words, maybe how you're feeling right now, what you'd like to get, maybe even put yourself forward. Feel free to either volunteer experience, volunteer to, we call it be coached, but I'll talk about that in a minute.
Are you looking for the word or what?
Creative arising without sounding, it's an English word, without sounding too wanky about the whole thing. But it's really interesting that some conversations end in transformation or change and other ones don't. They don't seem to change the very structure by which we make meaning. I noticed there are some people unmuted. Okay, so let's mute up everybody. Thank you. And then you can just unmute yourself if you want to speak. All right. So who would like to share where they're at? Yes, Elise. Hello.
Hi, how are you? So I like.
Hang on, I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh. Strange.
Say something.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
And I'm just going to do one thing. One sec. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I just want to say I hope your move went well.
Thank you.
And congratulations. And so I like what you're saying about joy and following your bliss rather than focusing on an outcome. And it makes me reflect on how I created my business, which was just really from this passion of teaching and offering therapy to more people, and really believing in the approach that I was using, and I still do. But now, because of insurance and all of that drama, I want to create this other coaching business. And now I've crossed the hurdle of thinking that I can do it. Like I've tried it out. I've worked with some couples, and I realized, wow, I have a lot of knowledge and skills, and this will be fine. So I'm over that fear. And I'm just curious, like I think I'd like to follow that concept of bliss and kind of following your heart rather than I want to make this much money and I want to have this outcome, because I think the former is more organic for me and feels more authentic. So, but I'm in the space of like, okay, I guess I have to make a website now, another website, and do all the things. And it just feels so achy, like inauthentic marketing, all of that, which I know I can do and I'm good at it, I'm capable of it, but I want to come from that different space. So I wonder if you could talk more about that, because I'm kind of stuck in this space right now of trying